Hey everyone, welcome to another Manufacturing Live. And as you can see, we are actually live at Blueprint Engines in Kearney, Nebraska. With me is Josh. Josh, tell us a little bit about Blueprint for the people that don't know. Tell us about what you do. Give us a little intro, a little bit of flavor over all the noise and sounds and the coolness here.
All right, so we are an original equipment manufacturer. We build our own engines using our own designs based off of the style of popular engines. We're really popular in the performance industry. And one of the things that I think helps set us apart is not only are we building our own engines, but we invest in tooling, we get our own designs, and we have a fully functional team all the way from design to testing and validation to production. And I think that really is what makes us a market leader in our industry.
Really cool market leader in the industry on top of that. So you told us about Blueprint, but what do you do here? What is your job? How do you handle all the magic that goes on?
All right, so I'm the director of manufacturing. I've been here for about 9 years. Spent a lot of time in operations inside the facility. About the last year to year and a half, I've really been focused on the supply chain. As you know, many people encountered during COVID, there was a whole new set of challenges that led to us making significant investments and improving our processes to help us get more engines out the door. And so that's where a lot of my time is focused at, whether it's quality of product, quality of vendor product, spending time in the operations, and a lot of time spent on making sure we're getting enough parts here to build the engines our customers want.
Which, supply chain, right? I think we've all heard of supply chain. We've all heard of the challenges that go with that. And before I ask you the next question, I want to remind everybody we're live. We do have questions. Feel free to jump in. We'll take some of these questions. Josh is a wealth of knowledge. I have learned so much in the last 24 hours from him. So please feel free to fill that out and ask some questions. But when we talk about supply chain issues, some of the things that I noticed when we did the tour yesterday is you guys have brought a lot of stuff in-house and take a lot of that under your control. How has that benefited you to basically in-house a lot of things and control the process?
It helps us from a quality standpoint. We have a lot more control over the total supply chain. So we've sourced, the raw material to get us the parts that we need, whether it's castings or crankshafts or heads or rods and things like that. And we like to pull CNC machining in-house because we think it's something that we can do really well in our factory. There's been a lot of investment in it, and our team has really done a good job of getting us here through our design and our pre-manufacturing processes to help us make what I feel is a really good product for our customers.
Yeah, when I picked up my own engine a couple years ago and I came through and then we did the tour yesterday, the amount of CNC machines you guys have in here building engines is pretty impressive. Like it is a big scaled event. So in that, what's been like the biggest help for bringing the CNC machining in, because we are in the middle of Nebraska.
Right.
And for some of our producers that came in, I don't think they've ever been this far out west, but how has that dynamic changed what you do in like finding talent?
So we've been able to, find a great supplier that's got a lot of technical capability, and that really helps set the stage. When you look at, the availability of talent that we have in Nebraska, CNC machining has been around for a long time, and we're finding very capable people. But we've also recruited, from across the U.S. to bring people in to help us get set up. We've got tooling and support, locally out of Omaha, Nebraska. So we have the availability of technicians to come in, so they can help us out. We've got CNC operators that are from here locally. We have tooling companies that we work with. So we have a lot of the things that we need in Nebraska to be able to do this. But really, if you look at the design team and the design's capability to put what we want on paper and into a model to get it to the manufacturer to get us what they need, that really sets a great foundation for us to work from.
Which is important, right? Because
Absolutely.
One of the things that I asked you yesterday is where's the biggest focus of where you guys ship engines? And I'd like for you to explain a little bit of that, because I think, a lot of people would be like, oh, well, maybe they're just regional shipping around to a couple states, but talk about where you ship and like who uses your engines.
Yeah, so we have enthusiasts that are excited about our product all over the U.S. Our sales team actually goes to a variety of shows, whether it's Barrett-Jackson or, some of the other car shows, Good Guys car shows, things like that around the U.S. It's hard to say that there's a very specific area where our product is focused, we see people buying our product and putting it on our social media from all over the U.S. And I think that's really cool that, you know, they know where Kearney, Nebraska is because of Blueprint Engines. They might not know much about where it's located, but they're like, yeah, that's Blueprint Engines. And, you know, on the Barrett-Jackson auctions that they've had, they talk about Blueprint Engines in Kearney, Nebraska. And then I hear from people that I didn't even know were interested in the industry, like, hey, I saw you guys on TV. It was really cool. So I think it really has a national draw. Yeah. We do ship some product overseas. And so, you know, all of that just gives us a great base to build our business on.
One of the things that it seems like you've grown into over the last 5-10 years too is doing turnkey kits. Can you talk a little bit about how that expansion went from just providing an engine, but now you can just ship someone an entire crate?
Yeah, I think the vision goes back to our CEO and our sales team, you know, looking at the industry, knowing what is going on, what is popular, and how we can add value. And I walked you guys through the station yesterday. We were actually put the pulley kits and the transmissions together that go in one box. And that's not very common in the industry. You can source all of those products and get them put together, but we had the value of putting it on. And so when you think about what we do, the guy putting that on does anywhere from 5 to 7 to sometimes 10 of those a day, as opposed to an enthusiast in the garage going through the struggles of trying to get that stuff to work together. And anybody who's done that knows it's not always a turnkey process. And so we think that that's great value for our customers. We've put a lot of emphasis on it on our design team. We're sourcing our own product. And so we think that that is something that customers are excited about. And, you know, Amazon has kind of given us the kit, you know, the kit model, or you can get stuff turnkey, ready to go. And I think it just talks about where we are as a you know, an industry today. Once somebody gets to the point where they're ready to drop power in that thing and they want to go, it's just a nice value to have to put it in and be able to play.
Yeah, nothing aftermarket ever quite fits perfect in your vehicle that's 60 years old that went through who knows what over its course, right? There's always that massaging. So if everything's mounted, and like the one you showed us had fuel injection and everything set on it too, which was pretty amazing. I think my bank account's going to probably hurt after today, but you know, it's pretty amazing, cool stuff. So I'm going to look through a couple questions here quick.
Absolutely.
And then I have lots more to ask you about, including this orange thing sitting here. We want to get into that on the design side as well. Somebody posted, is it just me or does that engine look pretty boss? So apparently the colors are filling out today. Let's see. It looks like everybody is drooling. There's no questions. As we talk, ask questions. This is the man that can answer them. So as we go through this and, you know, you guys build the engines, you go through all that process. One of the big pieces that stood out, and we shared a video yesterday, which everybody went gaga over, was the dyno pull. Can you talk about your testing process and standards after you assemble?
Yeah, so, you know, there's a lot that goes into getting to that point. So we have, you know, we have 3 testing and validation dynos. And then we also have test equipment outside to be able to test our engines in a variety of environments. We have test vehicles we can put them in and test them. So when we develop the engine, we have a target in mind that we want to achieve, and our testing and validation team helps us set what that target can be. You know, if we want to get a little bit more out of it, does it need a different cam? Does it need something different to it? So testing and validation really sets the stage to get that out there. So by the time that engine gets to those production dynos, we've got a really good idea of what the engine is capable of, what it can do repeatedly. And then when we get it in there, it's not just a dyno pull. That engine is hooked up to pump gas, just like it would see in an engine. We bring it in, we hook it up, it's got headers on it, we let that bad boy fly, you know, and we're testing it. We're looking at horsepower and torque all the way up to over 5,000, 6,000 RPMs. We watch the pressure, or watch the heat and the power coming out of each cylinder along the way. We have EGTs that we can see what the temperature looks like. We look at oil pressure, manifold pressure, air-fuel ratio. We look at all of these things that make an engine really hum. And once that's all developed, when they hit that room, like we've got a process where they go in, they get tested. And after they're tested, we take down the test and we check for blow-by. We check for oil leaks. So it's a fully comprehensive test. It's more than just a pole that you guys see, there's a lot to go into it. No doubt the coolest part is when that thing is screaming in the room and everybody gets excited about it. But it's more than just that pole. It's a full-fledged inspection of that engine. Try to make sure that we're protecting our customers and protecting our brand.
And that's where the rubber meets the road, right? Like,
absolutely.
You can measure everything and put it in spec, but until it's all humming together, you never really know where it's going to end up.
Yeah, and I think anybody who buys our engine or looks at our engines realizes, like, we stand behind our work. We have an industry best warranty on it. Well, you have to know what's going into that engine and what you're doing and how you tested it in order to back that up and say it's worth it.
Yeah.
And we try to stop it before it even get out of here to make sure that that warranty really protects the customer. That's really one of our goals.
You can't have a very good, best industry standard business model and not be prepared to make sure that you can back it up ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Right?
And, you know, we didn't talk a lot about our technical team, but once we make the sale, we've got people who, this is what they do in their spare time, answering the phones, talking to people. They've got lots of experience working with engines. So the test might feel like to some like that's that last stage in that process, but really that's just kind of part of the package that comes with it when you buy from Blueprint. You know, we design it, we build it, we test it, and then we support the product after the sale.
You mentioned design it. Let's talk a little bit about the design process.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, all the SolidWorks people and the CAD engineering people that are watching, I'm sure that they've probably already zoomed in on their screen to see that this is 3D printed. So let's talk a little bit about the engineering design process and what makes this a Blueprint engine.
Okay, so we've got a full team of designers. We start with, what do we want to accomplish with the engine? Are we trying to get something that can handle a certain amount of horsepower? Are we trying to get something that we want to get into a specific target range? Or is there just a gap in the market that we think we can fill? So we have a design process that's focused on new program development, and we put the intent of that together right away and put together the factors that we want to use in that design process. So by the time it gets to our engineers, they got an idea of what the application's going to be, what the horsepower is going to be, what we want it to get in, and then they go to town designing the engine and the configuration that will work within those parameters. We use SolidWorks, we use 3D printing, and that team gets together and does multiple design reviews with not just the sales team. The marketing team has some input to those, but then they get to engineering and quality, and everybody's involved to try to put out the best product that we can. So by the time you get a 3D printed model in front of you, it's been through lots of reviews to try to maintain the integrity and the quality of our product and our processes to launch a good engine.
And it allows you to make things that are unique, right?
Absolutely.
You can see where, you know, if you watch the forums and things like that, you see where the good and the bad is with certain things. You guys can take all that into account and make the best possible process, right? I'm going to get to some questions here in just a sec. Bear with me. I think we're now kicking off all the questions that are coming in. But so when we look at this, the first thing that was unique to me, which struck me a little bit different than what I see most people print in, is this has helicoils and everything. So it's like a legit block you can bolt any accessory on. Is that sort of the process you go through all of it, like even the heads when you develop the heads? Yeah,
so, you know, in a lot of cases, by the time we get to this point, we've got a number of base components. So we want to make sure that what we are already happy with mocks up to the new design. So we want to be able to mock it up. You can tell there's hard parts, there's plastic parts, and then you had the privilege of seeing yesterday the actual production intent version of this. But before we get to that production intent, we want to make sure that the clearances are right and that everything will mate up with it. So when we actually go into that design timeline to get the production intent sample, we've worked through as much stuff as we can up front.
Which is pretty amazing to be able to do that, right? Like you're not prototype casting or anything else. Like you can mock this up, print it out, put it here. Yeah, I don't like this. It's not it's an expense, but not a big expense like it used to be able to create a brand new block or, you know, custom intake or heads or that stuff, right?
For sure.
I'm gonna look through a couple questions here. Bear with me for a second. There's a question about which Blueprint engine did I put in my project. It was a turnkey 350. I put in a 65 C10 short box. too much power for a little short box, but it was okay. Some people have their eyes on a 400 cubic inch small block from you guys. Do you accept remote design positions? I figured that one was going to come out.
You know, I think we're always open to having discussions as a team. In a manufacturing facility, though, one of the things that makes us successful is the fact that we can go right out into the shop and see it, get our hands on it, and do those reviews together as a team. So I would say primarily our focus is trying to do as much as we can in-house.
Well, and you have a full walled off R&D department over here too, where everybody gets to play and test. They have their own dynos over there too, which I saw, which was pretty cool. What components are you 3D printing in the manufacturing process? And I think what this question is, I'll frame it. I think they're trying to ask, are you taking any 3D printed components into production for finished engines, or are you using it for mock-up?
We use the 3D printing for mock-up up front. We've always had that discussion, like if you 3D printed an engine or put the right components on it, how long would the 3D live? But we haven't done that yet. You know, by the time we get to production, we've got production intent components on it.
Yeah, and a lot of these are going into older hot rods and things like that, so they're retrofit type items. Yeah. There's a PhD student from the UK asking if Blueprint engines are open to testing experimental engines in your testing facility.
Well, fortunately for our company, I'm not in charge of testing and validation. That's probably something I would have to defer to either, you know, the CEO and president of the company or our director of product development.
So for that, you can go to the Blueprint Engines website, and there's a contact. You could reach out and ask those questions. That's a really good question. That was one I didn't expect to come through today.
Now I would tell you, in terms of alternative fuels, and I think we just touch on that for a minute, right? We do have an industrial product line also that does run on ignited alternative fuel. And I would say that our CEO has the vision to look at what's coming and say, like, what can we and should we be a part of? So when it comes to experimental engines, we've hosted industry forums around power and the different types of power, where we've had people on site talk about hydrogen, talk about, you know, some type of spark plug ignited engine. That's really our wheelhouse. Alternative fuels, alternative energy, alternative applications. So I would say, yes, we absolutely look at a range of those things, including, is there a space for us? You know, what happens as you see more and more EVs? Is there something that happens in the future where we're a part of that? And I would give a lot of credit to our CEO and president of the company and the founder to say that's what he has done and how we've got to this point, as he looks at all of that stuff and is thinking ahead. And, you know, we might be focused on what's happening over, you know, today, tomorrow, maybe 2 or 3 years from now. He's 5, 10, 15 years ahead of us. And I guarantee you, he has thought about that aspect of it. I don't have anything to do with that, but absolutely as a company, we look at all those things.
And that was actually one of the questions, if you guys were testing other types of fuel consumptions and things like that.
Absolutely, yeah. We talk about all of that stuff, and our business development team, they do a great job of getting out there and finding different markets, maybe different industries, or even trade shows. Like, we have a group of teams that go to trade shows to look for a place for our product line. And if there's not something we're doing, should we be looking at this, and is there carryover?
Okay. Which, I mean, that's important, right? We all have to continue to move forward, and we're all impacted by things that are around us, right? And it seems like, you know, we had Dave from Speedway on earlier, and you guys are in a similar vein. You guys are actually partners in what you do. What was interesting was, you know, through the 2020s up till now, there's been a shift in how people manufacture and produce products. But when you start looking at, like, I call it a little bit lifestyle type purchases, it's been pretty consistently busy for several years. How is that been for Blueprint?
So we've carried a backlog for a while as we've worked through our supply chain issues. And so you'll continue to see new product launches in order to help us drive and grow on our base level of sales. And so, you know, we're investing money in sales teams, sales and marketing and research and things like that to keep growing that. And some of the things I can't talk about yet because they're so new, but I promise you there are some super exciting new opportunities that are coming in that product line that I think people will look at and be like, man, that is awesome. How did you guys pull that off? And it's our team. Like, we have a great team that puts us in position to be able to pull those off. So just because you don't see it from us today as a product offering, or just because you don't see a specific type of application today, doesn't mean it's not already under development or well down the path of being able to be announced. And I think we're really excited when we get to share that stuff. We just can't do it too early.
Well, you mentioned the OEM line. As we were walking around yesterday, I noticed there's definitely a lot of unique styled OEM engines that are here that I wouldn't normally relate to somebody that's building this type of stuff. That was really cool to see how you guys are handling all that. Again, not allowed to talk about that, but I can't wait to see what you guys do in the future. And it's sort of interesting too, is a fair amount of the engineers I've known over the years from 25 years ago, and it seems like you guys have done a really amazing job of attracting very skilled talent to push this initiative forward. Now, when I asked you yesterday, I want to talk a little bit about the people and employees at Blueprint. So how many people work at Blueprint today?
Right now, we're right around 270, 280 employees.
Which is, for the amount of engines you produce, that's a pretty lean group to be able to handle that. How do you work with the challenges that happen with getting people in the door, keeping them and retaining them? Because to build a very high-tech product, right, that's very intricate in what you do to be repeatable, you got to find the right talent. How do you guys go about that?
So we go about it a couple of ways. We've been working in some of the local high schools for a number of years, catching kids who don't have a set career path or maybe have an interest in manufacturing, to expose them to what we do. And we've had, some of our most successful stories are, kids that came in, they were an intern, they got their school paid for, we helped with part of that, some grants helped with that, and now they're growing in the company. So one way is to introduce ourselves to kids as early as possible by being involved in the high schools. I mentioned to you, we're supporting local robotics programs and things like that to generate excitement around manufacturing, where maybe there's some overlooked opportunities that people are savvy to now, and we're getting involved in that. We work with local universities, whether it's a regional university that specializes in the type of technical capabilities that we have. We work with our local university. We've hired supply chain, students out of that to grow them. We've hired manufacturing leadership out of groups like that. And then there's a lot of talented people in the industry or around, and we've really put a lot of life into our recruiting efforts, where we've even had some people who are really great salespeople, like leading the charge for selling the company and recruiting people to come in. The challenges with retention and retaining and keeping top talent are always going to exist. They've been around for a while, but I feel like today it's with all of the different platforms to recruit that make it easier to recruit. It also makes it challenging to retain people. So as a company, we use a Net Promoter Score program for customers on how likely they would be to refer, a friend or family member or somebody to buy a Blueprint engine. And we've started that same process internally with our people. We want to drive the voice of our team to figure out how we can do things better, what we can do to improve. And so there's a lot of efforts that go into that talent base, but we're always looking for good talent, and we're always trying to figure out what can we do to keep and retain talent, and how do we build the talent that we need to come into the facility.
Yeah, and for the people that may not have been to Kearney, Nebraska, I would imagine everybody's been through Kearney, but there's other competition in Kearney, right?
There's manufacturers.
Yeah, there's big manufacturers that are here. There's also the university, right? And there's other places like that. So it's really important to be able to get people in the door, but then also keep them, because it's not like you're the only game in town.
Absolutely.
When you look at like a culture perspective and length of employment, we were talking about that a little bit. Coming in, do you find that a lot of people come in and they're overall they generally stay long periods of time?
I think manufacturing isn't for everybody, and so when we get people in who are young in their career, you know, that's got a set schedule, it's got a daily you know, objective that you got to achieve, and some of that is just different for people, and it's not for them. So we lose some people to that. But if we get somebody in the facility and they work for us and they're here for a couple of years, the tenure tends to build on itself over that period of time.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I was talking to the kids at SCC yesterday, and I was talking about that. Like, you know, you're going to get out into the workforce. You don't really know what you want to do, right? And there's always that little bit of a learning curve where what you think you want in life versus what the employer is providing aren't always the best. And, you know, it seems like it's a scenario where if you get kids straight out of school, you have to be a little bit lenient to understand that they're still trying to navigate what life means to them, right?
Yeah, and I've hired some, you know, I'm really proud of some of the programs that we've had, and we've hired some kids directly from UNK. Yep. We had to learn this, right? It wasn't perfect from the beginning, but it's like, I sit down with them, we talk about a development plan, here's where you're going, here's why, we're gonna introduce you to a couple of different areas, and then we're gonna sit down and talk about what makes the most sense. We've got, you know, a new employee for us, he's been here over a year now, who's been through that program. He's thriving, you know, as a young career professional by getting the exposure to different things. And now he is helping give the tours, and he is helping recruit, and he is helping us find the right students to come into the program. We've also entered a new chapter as a company. We're going to have an employee who's going to retire after 40 years with Blueprint engines.
That's awesome.
And so it's awesome. Yeah. And he's been a part of it since the beginning, and he's taught us so much, and he's helped us build the company into what it is. That's a new chapter for us where we're having people come through and retire. And I'm really excited. Like, I've been here for, you know, over 9 years now. Yeah. There are people that were, you know, running a machine or early in their career now that have moved into team lead positions. They've moved into supervisor positions, and they're growing their career. And I see us wanting to grow people even more. We're investing in training programs, opportunities to go benchmark other successful companies. And I think that's all part of that how do you do it today package. We want to take people and grow them and give them something to look forward to that is exciting to them, where they can grow with the company, because we're better as a company to promote people that have been here. And sometimes it's great to get an outside perspective too. But if you want to grow your company, having a great foundation is really important to it. And I see a commitment to that from the company. And I just want to give a shout out, you know, Lauren Pabian has been here. He's getting ready to retire, and he represents what we can do as a company if we get somebody to come through and make us better.
Yeah, which in today's age is very rare to have someone go through an entire career cycle, right? Like, that doesn't happen very often anymore. It doesn't seem like. So yeah, you know, you got to have a good foundation, a good culture, and part of that culture is being open to receive ideas, which makes a great team, right? Too often people are like, oh, I'm just going to bring in a new guy and we're just going to blindly listen to whatever they say. Well, they come in with their own ideas, upset the apple cart completely, and then you waste 2 or 3 years. So the thing I noticed, like in walking around and like chatting with everyone, is one, everyone said hi and made eye contact, which is pretty rare these days. But number two is like, even the folks helping this morning, like they just helped. Nobody was like grumpy or unhappy or being asked to do anything else. And like those little things are very key in today's, you know, being successful long-term in manufacturing. So it's been delightful to see how everybody interacts here, and you definitely have an amazing foundation.
Yeah, it's a great team. You know, when you look around, there's just a lot of good things going on. And you know, you talk about getting employees involved. We've had a Find It, Fix It program where whether it's a safety issue or a quality issue or an improvement that can be made, and we try to give our employees the tools to make improvements to their work areas. We've had some amazing ideas around safety, around quality, and that's one of the things that I think you'll hear from us that we want to continue to build upon. It's how do we engage the hearts and minds of our people to get them actively involved in helping us improve as a company, and make it their own. And so, and when you look at our facility and what we want to do, I would say that's a key part of our strategy, where we want to engage the team to help us continue to build on what we're doing.
Yeah, and that's sometimes the hardest thing to do, right? Producing the good is easier than get everyone to buy in. I'm going to look at a couple quick questions here. So there's a couple ones. None of them are stumps, but I know you know the answer to them. The first one is, what are the smallest and largest engines you manufacture?
So right now, you know, on the performance side, a 350 cubic inch engine, I think is probably around the smallest that we produce right now. Everything's a V8 on the performance side. That'd be the smallest displacement. Ford 302, I guess, Ford style, based off that 302 that they made, would be the smallest on the small block style engines. The 350 is the smallest. That's the smallest we make today. The biggest, one of the favorite engines we make, a 632 cubic inch engine. It's got over 1,015 horsepower to it. So that's the biggest displacement. On the industrial side, we go from a 3.6 all the way up to a 10.3, and we're adding, you know, I talked about those product line expansions. You'll see some expansions coming on that product line also, but yeah, let's go 302 to 632.
I mean, 632 just sounds cool too.
It's awesome.
You know, you have the traditional big blocks, but 632 just has a nice sound to it.
And we have some supercharged engines also. So you have the cubic inches of displacement. You also have some power adder capabilities that you can tack onto some of these engines, and it's awesome.
So what's the biggest horsepower you guys have ran in the dyno?
Oh, 1015 is gonna, yeah, it's gonna be the biggest.
That'd be cool to hear. That would be really cool to hear. How long does it take to go from a 3D model to manufacturing to testing to shipping? Like, what's your development cycle?
You know, I want to say it's going to be, you know, around 18 months.
Okay.
I think you probably, if it's a similar project, maybe around 12 months. But our design team is constantly, they've got a new engine development process where they're putting together the timelines, and they're maximizing that and getting the most out of it. But that's a safe bet, I would say, for now, but they might have something different to say with the process that they have in place and the improvements they've driven. That's what I'll go with for now, though.
The machine wants to be a star in the background too there for a second. The production guys are all scrambling for the audio. We'll just speak a little bit louder for just a second. So, you know, I think too, like when we talk about a development cycle though, it's scanning, modeling, testing, validating, feedback before it ever becomes a real thing, right? And that's a lot in 18 months.
Yeah, and some of them will end up getting tested for more than 1,000 hours.
Yeah, which, I mean, it takes time, right? But if you want it to be accurate, that's what it takes. Do you folks work directly with Ford GM to obtain block head dimensions, or are you reverse engineering?
You know, there are some programs that we would look at and benchmark. You know, what if you look at what we're doing, we have to make it work within the application that came from. Right. So there are absolutely parts of it that we have to look at where the engines are going to go and get them set in place. And so that requires, you know, some fitment and some studying of that. But you know, you saw some of the design and the 3D capability. Like when we look at the chamber, we look at the CC volume, we look at all of the stuff that we want to accomplish. Like a lot of that is coming off of what the customers want and need for their application, but it's based off of what we do as a design team to make that happen.
Yeah. So it's a mix, Eric. I know you're looking for a deeper answer. It's a mix, my friend. So this one's from Richard, which is over in Hastings. Okay. Does Blueprint offer tours to groups or individuals who want to see the facility?
We absolutely do. Our favorite thing, and one of my favorite things, is to give a tour to somebody who's bought an engine. Yeah. So let me just suggest that as a starting point. But if you're not buying an engine, you still want to come to, we open up to the community a couple of times a year. Like there's a local cruise night. You know, there's a local car museum that the owner and founder of the company is heavily involved with. That's going to be, you know, kind of doing a refresh, you know, to reintroduce some of the new things that they're doing. And so I would imagine there'll be some community opportunities for that. And if you can't find your way into one of those opportunities, we can be contacted and we can evaluate if we have something going on where we can take a group through.
Well, and it was a couple years ago, Rocky Mountain Race Week came through and things like that too?
Yeah, we have some open houses. We've had Rocky Mountain Race Week. The cruise night really is the biggest one. Like when we talk about that cruise night experience that we offer, we do a car show here typically to start off the week. And you've got lines of people lined up outside of the doors to go onto those tours.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
probably one of the bigger tours that we give.
So social media, check it out. They'll announce when that's going to be. That's the easiest bet, right?
Correct.
Or you could buy 5 or 10 engines, and then you'll probably get a tour as well. So let's see. There's a question. Can you please elaborate on your engine testing? I don't know how much we can elaborate on without, secret sauce there.
Yeah, so I think what it's fair to say on the engine testing, they get put onto a dyno, and they're run off of the fuel that they're intended to be ran on, and they're run with production intent components. So when we're doing that testing, there's different types of testing you do with new designs. There's the fit and form and function type testing. Does everything work right? You do oil consumption testing to make sure that the product performs properly. There's extended testing, like if it's a newer design or newer components and we want to put some durability to it. So there's a variety. Cold start testing. Like, we have lots of testing capabilities, so it's really hard to zero in on one thing to say this is what the recipe is for everyone. But we have lots of capability. We've put lots of money and investment into it. One of the things that is part of the blueprint story is, the owner of the company, Norris Marshall, has opened up investment to shareholders who have been with the company and been here for a while. And when we bought into the company, one of the things we talk about is what we make as a company will go back into growing the business. So those investments go back into testing and validation equipment, obviously CNC equipment behind us. And so, we're constantly evaluating our capabilities also and investing in that without going through all, and I'm not the right person to talk about engine testing. They would, they would probably say you got about 1% of that right, but there's a lot of investment in the technology to be able to do that in-house.
Well, I think it's important though to understand too, is like you can do turnkey engines, or you can buy a short block, or you can buy a long block, right? Maybe not short block, long block.
Short block isn't really something that we offer anymore just because of the back orders. We're focused on engine production.
So if you're talking like a long block, you have to put stuff on it to test it and then take it off, and that may vary a little bit depending upon.
And we absolutely have to do that, where we will take it's a CT style engine for us. For anybody looking online, it's an engine that's got the valve covers and the dipstick and the oil pan and stuff on it. But we have what goes on our CTC style, upfit style type engine, deluxe engines. We have all those components for testing that are used, where we use the same plugs we recommend, the same plug wires, the same water pumps. I showed you how we try to design that testing process for quick connections and things like that to be able to get engines through there. But the test process isn't just like a cold test where we're just running it to see what it's coming out of it. Like, it is off of, the proper octane fuel that we're going to test it with. It does have spark. It does get up to operating temperature, and we do run it across the pole. You guys saw that. That's what the video showed yesterday, where that is what our engines get for testing.
Yeah, we were talking about it yesterday with jetting, right?
Yeah.
Do you custom jet them to tweak anything, or is you said it depends upon whether it's a stock engine or a special order, if you will?
Yeah, and some of our engine ranges require that, in order to hit what we have for advertised horsepower and torque, so we will jet them. A lot of what we get are stock based off of what we get direct from our vendors.
Yeah, I mean, when you get to the 632 size, that's a little bit different than just ordering a generic replacement 350.
For sure.
Yeah. Let's see. They're saying you're amazing and your articulation is great. So kudos to you.
Did my wife post on there or something as a
it's math, so I don't know.
Okay.
We'll take it as everyone on here feels that you're doing amazing.
It's too kind, but thank you.
So what do you think I know your job is, we were talking about continuous improvement stuff, but where do you see like the next 5 to 10 years going as far as, people working here, adding more talent, finding that right thing? Like, it sounds like you guys have found your rhythm of, you narrowed down the profile you want. What's that look like for the next 5 years?
So our foundation right now is trying to build scalable processes, because 100 engines a day is great, but there are more people that we want to want our engine. And so we want to scale our quality processes. So like, we have PPAP processes where we go through and that whole APQP suite, like we we do those things. We have a new program, process where we are developing and launching engines. So what I see as part of that growth is as we scale those up, maybe somebody that has multiple pieces of that, they might have one piece of it. I see, supply chain. I see that being an area that we want to grow and attract talent into. You look at everything we do, we want to do more of it on a bigger scale, which means you might see a little bit more specializations on some tasks. For me personally, we get feedback. We're doing a lot. Anybody who's familiar with manufacturing knows about safety and quality and delivery and inventory and productivity. We call it SKU dip. So we've got boards around the factory where we're trying to Pareto out what our opportunities are. And we want to take those and keep drilling that down and finding out what can we do for improvement, what can we do to make things better. So I would say you'll see investment in talent to do that. And then obviously we're going to need more people to machine and build and test engines and everything that goes along with supporting that. So I would say a scalable version of what we're doing today. And who knows, we own land around the factory. 5 to 10 years is enough of a time frame where we might be talking about how do we grow it and scale it and make it even bigger.
Yeah. And I noticed yesterday when you gave us the tour, you guys have robotics. You're putting in robotics. Have some working, have some going. Talk about how you think robotics will be able to help long-term with that.
If you look at stuff that people do over and over, you think about the wear and tear on a person, you think about the quality control of a product. And with the robot, anything that you can kind of get to a stationary, repeatable point and have tooling or have functions come in and kind of hit the same spot over and over is a candidate. And for us, it's to supplement what we're doing today and put more controls in place to protect our people and to protect our products. And you got to see David working yesterday and what he's got going on with the main bore line honing robot. We looked at head torque. There's more opportunities out there for that. I think it's an exciting opportunity for us. Who knows, like my hope and vision would be the kids that are interested in robotics now, maybe get the chance to do that locally and do that here for us with our tools and to help us grow. And I think that'd be awesome. But robotics is really excited. We talked about my son, he's 11 years old. My daughter's 13. And we're trying to get robotics programs into the schools locally. We've got some great programs locally. And I'd love to see what we can do to scale that up and continue to introduce more technology into our processes.
Do you think the employees of the future will be more technicians? Like being able, they understand the process to be able to do it. Certain things you're always going to have to manually do, but do you see more people over time, they'll be managing groups of technology to be able to do the things that often give humans carpal tunnel or bad backs?
Yeah, people give me a hard time when I talk about hybrid models of stuff. I think you're going to see a mix. It's going to be a hybrid. You'll have technical people. I'd love to take people that we have here and help them grow into the more technical roles too. But for a long time, there are going to be some core processes that we want to have eyes and ears on. And so, when it comes to using cameras and visual systems, we'll need technical people to support that type of stuff too. But for a long time, we're going to need to continue. We talked about breaking up, engine building into anywhere from, 3 to 7 minute processes that somebody can do repeatedly over and over. There's still going to be some chunks of that. We just want to take the best of what we can do to control those processes in order to take care of people and quality. And we'll see where that takes us. And who knows where that could be. It could revolutionize really quickly with talent we're able to get, or it could be a drawn out process that we work our way into. It's really hard to tell at this point.
Well, and in engine building too, there's always that component of you have to have the human thinking of, is this acceptable, right?
Yeah.
You can have a range, but we all know that there's a range, and then there's I've been doing this long enough, I know that that'll be okay. And I think having humans do what they're good at, which is the problem solving piece, versus I'm going to torque 5,000 bolts today. Right? I think that's a balance. I don't think there's ever a replacement. It's more of a, can I use humans to be good at what they're built to do?
I think if you think about a person's strong points, it's their hearts and their minds, right?
Yep.
No matter what you automate, you don't get the hearts and the minds and the problem solving that comes with having your hands on the process and being close to it. So I think there should always be a space in manufacturing for that. It might change in what that looks like, but to have people engaged in driving improvements is a really key part of manufacturing. And so I think they can complement each other very well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the pallet pools, right? Like the benefit of a pallet pool is you still have an expert, but they're now not manually loading and unloading machines. That's a big time saver, but it's also a human safety component, right? When you're talking an engine block, it's not like a little 1x2 cube you're throwing in a vise. That's serious things that are being moved around.
So, yeah, it's a lot of cast iron.
So I got a couple questions here. They're asking if you're doing simulation on internal flow.
Yeah, and I don't have much involvement with it, but I know that we have people here that do it. You know, they have the programs, they have the training and the ability to do it. We've invested in the people to be able to do those types of things. There's an air bench, you know, back in the testing, the testing and validation area. Our engineering team they're able to do simulations, things like that. So we have the people here in house that do a lot of that stuff for us. And if it's something we're not familiar with, we have contacts in the industry to get help with that type of stuff. And that is one of the strengths of us as a company is if we don't have somebody here with the connections that we have, we're up there with leading industry experts who are helping us do it right and working together and teaching us how to do it right.
Okay. This one I'm going to ask you this. This one is going to probably be a little bit more technical for engineering, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Okay. No stress.
Yeah, we're clear up front. My qualifications did not say engineering or technical guy on it.
It says, can you share some of the advancements you employ in 3D printing some of the engine parts? Like, is there things that have come along that's made it easier for you guys to 3D print this stuff?
So 3D printers change rapidly over time. So we don't have the same printer that we started with, obviously.
Yeah.
So when you look at the types of material you use to print or the stuff that you've learned, like we've built on it over time. So material has been big. Just being able to get, you know, you talk about all of the detail here.
Yeah.
Like some of this is relatively not new, but it's been continuously evolving. And so when we talk about continuous improvement, I would tell you the team has absolutely worked that in to where stuff that we, you know, used to build into chunks, there's dovetailing built into it so you can put bigger chunks of it together. So I would say the evolution in what the printer size is, what its capabilities are, have absolutely evolved, but so is our knowledge and understanding and what we're able to do with those 3D printed components and items to get it to this point. We didn't start with a plastic intake and a plastic block and the timing covers. We started with other pieces that made sense. And we've even got down to, we have a 3D printed engine with pistons and fuel system like installed inside of the engine. And that's all been improvements that the team has made.
And to be fair, and I want to be clear to everyone out there, Blueprint also has some SolidWorks ninjas that are next level at what they can do. You know, like Frank was telling me, Ryle worked on the intake. He came from very complex surfacing stuff, DOD type things. Frank Ramadka, he's been around for, gosh, I've known him 20 plus years now, right? So to be clear, they, along with the development of the printing technology, they have some ninjas that know how to make this stuff work. So kudos to you guys for getting those types of people in, because holy moly, it takes a lot to develop that stuff.
And when you talk about like what makes us different, that's it, right?
Yeah.
You don't go a lot of places and see that level of capability and support. You know what? When I started, the design team was 2 or 3 people, and now it's grown. And what we're doing and getting out in the market and trying to find and to source and what they do, like they do a great job at it, and we're continually investing and building on it. So to that point, like SolidWorks capability, you know, what the teams does with their modeling and things like that, they do a great job. Just because I can't talk to it doesn't mean that they're not amazing at it.
Well, I think the other thing too is like, you know, doing SolidWorks stuff in Nebraska for 20 plus years. Every time I go into engineering, it seems like you guys grabbed another expert from another company that has been around, you know, for a very, very long time. So, you know, obviously around here, you guys are the place to be, which I think says a lot of credit to your company, your culture, and where you're going, that you're able to attract the best of the best.
For sure.
So let's see. There's one that'd probably be a little bit out of the scope of this discussion. Matt, who's a hot rodder, he runs our champions program. He wants your SolidWorks ninjas in his champion program. So Matt, I'll get with you after. I'll share some of the contact info. Let's see. I think that pretty much covers. We'll wait a couple seconds, see if there's any more questions, but any final thoughts while we're waiting for a few questions to come in?
I just want to thank you guys, coming on site. We saw what you guys were able to do at Speedway. It's just another way to showcase, the relationships and what we do. And, I'm here as one person of a 275 plus member team. And it really does take everybody here to get us to where we are. You've got the vision, of our leader to get us to this point. And you've got the commitment of the team, no matter what we have going on. Like they pulled together to make it happen. And so, we're showcasing the product, but just as important as the product are the people behind the product. And no matter where you go, you're going to be hard pressed to find a better bunch of people to help get you a product or help support your product in the marketplace. So I just want to make sure that I brag up on the team a lot too, because there's a lot of good things. And anybody that's been coming to see us as a business over the years, they almost always say, whether it's 6 months or 6 years, like, wow, I can't believe what you guys have done and how it keeps growing. That's vision, that's investment, and that's people on the team to get us there. And we keep hiring rock stars, and we have rock stars on the team. And so it's just, an awesome environment to be a part of that I think shows itself well in the marketplace and how we got on the map.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's always a surprise to come in and see all the new stuff you've added and things like that. And I think on top of it, for all of you, stop flying over the Midwest. Get in a car and drive. There are thousands of companies doing really cool things out there, and Kearney's more than the Archway Monument. There is a whole bunch of really cool stuff. You need to come see the team and hang out. So let's see. Scan to mesh model content. I got you covered on that. Ian, we'll book that. I'll do that. We did the Bullet 3D Experience World. I can handle that with you, Eric. So with that, I think we're at the end of the episode. I can't thank you enough. Thank you for letting us disrupt production, because, that's always a problem, right? So you guys now need to go buy a couple engines to offset the production that we just blew up by being out here. But thank you all. Thank everybody. We can't wait to see you in another month. Hopefully we won't run into a snowstorm like last time. So with that, thank you, sir. I appreciate the time.